Today, we're lucky enough to be joined by award-winning makeup designer, department head, and the B in K&B EFX, Howard Berger, as well as Vintage Geek Central's professional geek, writer, collector, and quizmaster, Marshall Julius, as we talk about their book, monster making, and special effects.
On Kill Bill,
Oh, yes.
the first blood gag we had to shoot was Sophie's arm getting chopped off. Manuma cuts her arm off. And I'm like, let's change this up. Let's do 2 fire extinguishers, charged to 200 PSI, both with 2 gallons of blood, and let's see what happens. And we did it, and that shit shot 30 feet and hit the walls and the ceilings, and all I heard is Quentin laughing behind the camera. And at that point, I knew we had succeeded. And he came up and he's like, that's what I'm talking about.
You are now listening to the podcast for geeks and the stuff they love, where each week we'll talk about everything from anime to movies, games, and prop collecting with the people who create and love it. I'm Jeremy.
I'm Vince.
I'm James.
I'm Howard.
I'm Marshall.
And this is your Geek Fix.
You got some editing to do there once, because for the last book, we were on Doug Bradley's podcast and he didn't do any editing. I said, I've got to stop and go to the toilet. The whole thing is on the podcast. Look at it, the whole thing.
Was your mic on when you went in there?
I mean, he didn't follow me into the toilet.
We can leave this in there if you want as well.
Would you rather talk about just general geeky stuff, about makeup artists and your?
It doesn't really matter. It's really, yeah. I mean, whatever you want to talk about.
Okay.
I figure at some point we'll tie into the book, because the book is not just with makeup artists. It's really people within the entire film industry. Well, that's making a monster, or that's Masters, which has all makeup effects people for the most part. Yeah. But the new book is a combination, an amalgamation of writers, directors, actors, visual effects artists, makeup, of course. But yeah, it's a big slathering of a lot of different disciplines. And because everybody loves monsters and movies, so that's kind of what we went for, and everybody talked about, what monsters meant to them when they were a kid, and what they still mean to them now that we're adults and in the industry working on films that have monsters or monster theme or horror theme or what have you. What's your
backstory on this? I mean, you mentioned, when we're kids and stuff. What's for you guys? What's your backstory?
Well, for me, I mean, I grew up in Los Angeles in the San Fernando Valley, and my dad was in the industry. He was a post-production sound editor, and he loved movies, and he got me hooked on movies right out of the gate. And the movies I gravitated to were monster films. I loved it, and I always was curious, who made those monsters? And my dad said, people called makeup artists. So at that point it clicked, and I'm like, that's what I want to do when I grow up. I want to be a makeup artist. I want to work on these movies. And, listen, I was fortunate to grow up in a family that was super supportive and also film centric. And as well as growing up in the Valley in Los Angeles, where they made movies, and that my dad worked in the film industry. So it was all the perfect storm. And, early on, I just started sculpting and painting and molding in my bedroom and making masks and using my 3 sisters as experiments. They were my subjects. And then, I reached out to people I idolized, like Stan Winston and Rick Baker and Dick Smith. And, they all wrote back, and I got to meet them all when I was very young. And that just was the beginning of it all, and I knew, like, this is what I'm going to do when I grow up. And I'm doing it, and it's great. And, this is my 42nd year being in the film industry. I'm tired, but it's good. But I love it. And I wake up every single morning, and I look forward to going to work. And it's a combination of doing the work, but also I really love the camaraderie that we have. It's all about being with your friends and working together. And, like currently I'm in New Mexico, in Albuquerque, New Mexico, doing a show, and I've got a lot of great friends on my crew. But I've done gigantic, enormous shows where I've had, 30, 40 crew members, and it gives me an opportunity to employ all my friends and who are great at doing their job. It's just not that we're friends, but they deliver. And that's really what I find so much fun about it. And as you meet people in your industry, no matter what they are or who they are, it all comes back to monsters, and I've, spoken to actors who bring it up. It's like, oh, I love monster movies. Or if I wasn't an actor, I'd be a makeup artist, It's really kind of cool. And when you hear that, because I would never say, oh, if I wasn't a makeup artist, I'd be an actor. Right. Never in a million years. I think it's a terrible job. I feel terrible for them all the time. But, like I worked with Gary Oldman years ago and we were talking about it. And he's a huge makeup enthusiast. And he said, if I wasn't an actor, I'd be doing what you do. I love makeup effects. I just love being in makeup. And, when you see Gary in a lot of those movies, those makeups are perpetuated mostly by him. He's really like, I want to be in a makeup. Even if there's nothing in the script that requires it, it helps
Give
him.
Me a scar.
Yeah, seriously. And he wants to develop the character and he uses it to, as a tool, and that's also when we're working, that's what we look for. We're like, okay, how can we help the actor build his character? So we're kind of an instrumental part of that. Same as costumes, when an actor puts on his costume or he or her costume or their costume, they start to feel the character and come to life. As they're sitting in the makeup chair every morning, you can start to see the change in the actor as they start to develop. Like I did this movie called Hitchcock with Anthony Hopkins. And so Tony would sit in the chair and it was Tony. And then through the course, he would start to change and become Alfred Hitchcock. And by the end of the session, he'd go and get dressed and put, all that stuff. And he was Alfred Hitchcock. Not that he was like in his mind, like, please call me Mr. Hitchcock or please.
Right.
It wasn't like a method thing, but it helped.
Andy Kaufman.
Yeah, no, Andy Kaufman. Or Jim Carrey or whomever. It was, he used that to his benefit, and we worked together as a team. So, that's what's super cool. That's what I love doing. I love working with the actors, more so than anybody on the show, just because they have a clear vision of what they want to do and we're there to help them facilitate that. And it's nice to see when a character works on screen, you're like, okay, I was a part of that. That's really, really fun. So, but anyhow, I diverted off the question. So yes, I grew up in the San Fernando Valley. I love monsters. I love making monsters. I still love making monsters. So there you go.
What's the project that took you into, how old were you and what was the project that brought you into?
I was like 8 years old when I really realized this is what I was going to do. And there was a makeup store in the valley called Friends Beauty Supply, which is still there, matter of fact. And my grandfather had taken me there. And one of the people that worked there, his name was Namey, really helped me. And he gave me a book written by Mike Westmore, which I still have, and supplies to like do a life cast and do this and that and some clay and everything I needed to start. And I went home immediately and did it. And it just never stopped. But I was really influenced by the Universal monsters. Creature from the Black Lagoon is my favorite, of course, and still is. And, then I discovered Godzilla and, all that stuff. And it just grew and grew and grew. And I still have a massive fascination with all of it. I really love it a lot. So yeah, I know it's cool. And so, but when I did a lot of different things when I was growing up. In high school, I did all the makeup for the plays, for play production, and I did a ton of stuff on my own. I did Halloween things for different events, even down to like being at the mall with a little kiosk, painting faces, to earn a couple bucks,
Right.
Instead of mowing lawns for the summer. And, just to buy supplies. So, really what happened is in my relationship with Stan Winston, who did, the Terminator and Jurassic Park and Aliens, I had met him when I was about 12 and he watched me grow as an artist or what have you and my enthusiasm. And he said, when you graduate high school, I'll hire you. So the day after I graduated high school, I called Stan and he's like, okay, start tomorrow. And that was on Aliens. Wow. Which was cool. But I was a grunt and that was great. And I loved every second of it. And, the fact that I got to work on this movie that was a sequel to a film I really loved with a bunch of friends that were working on it in Stan's shop and then new friends. And, it's a really cool community, that we have. We're all still great friends. We've been friends for 40 some odd years that all started working at Stan Winston or Rick Baker's or Kevin Yeager's. And it's cool. It's just everybody stays tight, which is nice, but then you can also borrow things. Like one of the shops called me yesterday looking for a head cast of Bryan Cranston. And I'm like, we have that. And it's like, oh God, we need it so much. And we want to save Bryan from coming in for a new head cast or a scan. And I said, yeah, no, we can certainly lend that to you because, we're friends with Brian. So I don't want Brian to have to go through that again just because we don't want to share. But it's part of the camaraderie and the friendship and the professionalism of, sharing things. Dick Smith, who's the godfather of makeup, who did Amadeus and, Exorcist and Little Big Man and The Hunger. Dick was big about sharing all his secrets. Prior that the other guys weren't. It's like, nope, it's trade secret. They were protecting their livelihood, but Dick didn't see it that way. And when I would write him, he lived in Larchmont, New York. He would write me back, and he was known for writing everybody back on his little typewriter. And, you'd have his letterhead, and I saved every single letter he ever sent me. I have it in a big giant book in my office. And, it's really, really cool. And it's
Howard, what do you call that book?
It's called Howard's Great Book of Knowledge.
Oh, really good.
Yeah, and it is. It's filled with all this stuff from Dick Smith and from Chris Walas, who did Gremlins, and some stuff from Rob Bottin and Michael Westmore's paint color mix formulas, and it's wonderful. I mean, it's just awesome, But that's so I bounced off of that as far as not keeping any secrets, because nothing's a secret. It really isn't.
Right.
And, so whenever I get an email or something or a whatever, call, or I'm always take the time to answer it and answer all the questions, because I think it's very important. And also just to pass the baton, I'm not going to do this forever, hopefully. And, times it's coming to an end for me soon, but, it's great to pass on that information and then, plant the seed, same as Stan did for me, or Rick Baker did, or Dick Smith did for me. So I think it's important to just keep that going, as long as we can, especially, in the face of how technology is changing in the world and in filmmaking with, digital effects, of course, but AI, I think, is a very huge, tool, that is, already here. It's not even on the horizon. It's past the horizon. Right. I mean, it's incredible what they're doing, but it's a different play field now, totally different than when I started. And I'm glad I started at the right time. I got in just at the right time, and I had the greatest experiences, and I have the best stories and the best memories. And now the people that are getting into it, they're not going to have those. They'll be different, but it's just a different mentality, and different experience. It's not at all what it was. We were really like, the outlaws or what have you. It was just shoot from the hip. We didn't know shit in the 80s. I mean, we were all just monster guys that, would love, heavy metal and stuff like that, and, had all mullets and all that stuff.
But I guess with that, you get the really original creative sort of effects.
Like absolutely.
Something that nobody had seen before. So
very impactful. And also filmmaking was different. There were singular voices. So like you worked with a director. That director was the singular voice. There's one producer on set who was there to, facilitate the needs of the director and the crew. Now you have directors who don't have a plan, don't have a vision. They don't know what the hell's going on. And you have multiple producers who all want to have their 2 cents, which just waters everything down, and you just know every decision they're making is the wrong decision, and you try to, do your best you can. So it's changed. The entire film industry has changed, not just our industry, but everyone. I was on set talking to the VFX supervisor last night, and he said the same thing. It's like, I sure am glad I was here when we were building models. I got to work on Return of the Jedi and work on this and work on that. And now they think, it doesn't even matter, because Marvel kind of like, destroyed that world by just making it just bloated with visual effects to the point where the audience, there's no bar, like the bar, there's no bar to set because it's just there.
Yeah. They're more saturated.
Yeah, I mean, if you watch any Marvel film and then watch Ghostbusters is infinitely better VFX wise. You're like, that's so cool because it's such a combo of things. But if you watch, whatever Marvel, you're like, it's just a barrage of stuff.
Yeah.
There you go. There's your trap.
Yeah.
So it's a big thing, and it's hard for all of us, but we're really glad that we had the opportunity to really be a part of when it was born and watching this baby grow And now it's a different. And I don't mean to sound like negative or what have you. It's just the reality of it, and you roll with it. And as new technologies reveal themselves, you figure out ways to utilize them. I mean, when Jurassic Park came out, we all went to see it, and we looked at each other, and we were like, we're all extinct, but we weren't, because we found a way to work with the visual effects department. Be it ILM or Rhythm and Hues or whatever it was, and we just kind of like formed an alliance with them, and they needed us, we needed them. There's things we could do, there's things they couldn't do, vice versa. And so we just kind of found the happy medium. With AI, we use it as a tool, as far as other options for concepts and designs. We'll have a barrage of designers doing this traditionally. Some still work with pencil. Some prefer, doing it with Photoshop. But there are times where we'll go and we'll, write a couple prompts to see what AI is thinking. And there might be some interesting options that come up. We would never produce a full AI piece of art and submit it, write our names on it and submit it. That's just morally corrupt.
It's
and
also,
oh yes, you're going to say?
Yeah, it's also very ephemeral because it's a prompt and it's interpretive by some
absolutely
something.
Yeah.
So there's no artist mark on it.
No, not at all.
Except for a watermark.
Except for a watermark. And that's the thing. It's like there's something to be said about human effort, and when that doesn't exist, it's noticeable to me. And I think, people going like, oh, there's going to be, aren't you afraid of full AI movies? Absolutely not. Because one, they'll be dog shit. And two, go ahead, please spend money on making AI films and let's see who doesn't go. It'll be a dead in the water. If you remember that movie Final Fantasy, which was all the first CG movie, it came out, people went to see it and were like, man, that was awful. And that was it. That was the end of like those full CG, like realism movies, it just didn't work. Or Robert Zemeckis' 10-year venture into doing motion capture movies, which people just didn't catch on to. It just looked weird. I feel like it'll be the same thing if they do AI movies. I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't think so. I think my instincts are still people are interested in human effort.
I will say that there's been a couple of projects that you've done that I honestly, I didn't know until I saw the making of, and they were interviewing you actually, that I thought it was all done using computer generated stuff, but it was all practical. One of the characters names is the Skinny Devil, I think it was.
For Legion.
And I mean to see that, even the way it was, just the makeup, it looks, it's unbelievable that was all done practically, or that was amazing.
It was all practical. Well, Noah Hawley, who was the creator of that show, who's brilliant and has Alien Earth on right now, which is pretty cool too. Loves practical stuff. He doesn't want to do the CGI as the fallback. But again, like I said, we work hand in hand. I love working with the VFX department because you can create things that you might not be able to do practical, if you want to squish an actor, like maybe make him a little thinner or whatever. But yeah, for the, yellow-eyed thin monster or whatever it was, devil.
There's probably one way to do it, but you can only get one shot.
Yeah. I mean, and you also have happy accidents that happen, when you're shooting it in real time and practical. If you were going to do something all AI, there are no happy accidents because it's just going to give you what it is. Right. You find things in performances, actors changing their performance, the way this is shot, or maybe the sun changed, while you're shooting outdoors, and that gives you a whole different feel. Maybe it becomes golden hour while you're shooting, and that gives you a whole different feel of what the film is. But you can't do that, I mean, you can create golden hour, but it's just, it's just not it. It's just, there will be heartless, soulless movies. And if that's what people want, that's, knock it out, then that's it. We also have to keep in mind, I know this is a rant and poor Marshall's like, but what about me? But well, how I started.
There's,
what was I just going to say? Oh, darn it. I lost my train of thought. Sorry. But anyhow, it's really about, people want to be entertained. You know, I mean, look at the movies that are hitting it. Like that movie Weapons came out, and people are digging it. You know. So, you know, I mean, the reviews are, oh my God. And I've talked to a few people like, I just loved it. And I'm like, okay, well, you know, sounds great. But the thing is, it's a simple movie. It's all, you know, it's people and, you know, human effort or whatever. So, yeah, it's like people want a variety of things. The studios have certainly misjudged the audience, like incredible in the sense of, you know, you've got somebody over at Warner Brothers running that into the ground until recent, when the studios or the shareholders probably went, this guy has really screwed us big time. Let's whatever, find a way to get rid of him eventually we'll just reduce his salary every week until he just like, I'm out of here. But it's like just one bad idea after another. And, you know, not too long ago, that studio head was saying, we're only going to do IP and sequels. And then last week, it's like, we're only going to do original things and do these movies and do that. You know, there's a guy at Warner Brothers, Mike DeLuca, who I've known since the 80s. You know, Mike started off at New Line Cinema. He was kind of like, you know, the super genius kid, you know. And anyhow, he's the guy that greenlit Sinners, which I love that movie. I think Sinners is super cool. And though it's very similar to Dusk Till Dawn, which we did at K&B, it's a really, really awesome film. I really dug it. And he had a lot of resistance getting that movie made because the studio didn't want to make it because it wasn't a sequel or IP. And it's now turned out to be a huge film. And, you know, all these films that are different, that are original, everyone has fatigue, of Marvel fatigue. We know that. They have sequel fatigue. They have IP. It's just guys, make original films. Go back to the 70s. Watch movies from the 70s. Those were all amazing original films that brilliant filmmakers made. Now we just churn out really pretty much barf. And it's just like, you go, it's
not just Hollywood though that's afraid to make.
No, it's not just Hollywood.
It's afraid to make new things. I mean, like, so our first book, Masters of Makeup Effects, we had the idea to make it.
Plug.
There you go. Just quotes, just stories, right? And to cut sort of us out of the reading process. So like like you went for a dinner party with all these guys, you probably the next day remember 3 or 4 really good stories. And that's the stuff that we wanted to include, not the stuff that would be, would just fade from your memory. We wanted all the best, most memorable stuff. So the book comes out. It was really well received, which was very gratifying because we worked our asses off on it. And then we spoke to our publishers about doing a follow-up. And they said, we definitely want to do a new book with you. We were surprised, actually, at how well Masters of Makeup Effects did. And it was like, what are you saying? That is the most backhanded sort of compliment ever.
Right.
It's like, it's like saying, well, we didn't really have any faith in it working, but we thought, what the hell, had to have some tax write-off or something, but it turned out really well. And so we were like, well, okay, you weren't expecting that to be successful, but it was. So why do you trust us to do something new? But now they're like, oh no, we want you to do the same thing. It's like, that was, it was enough that they trusted us once. And it's like, well, if you trusted us to do this once, let us do something new. That said, Making Monsters is not just a retread because we approached it in the same format, but we did, change the subject to some degree, because Masters is all about specifically makeup effects across all the genres. And because of that, we felt like we couldn't actually include things like digital effects. So we couldn't really talk about Jurassic Park. We couldn't really talk about stop motion effects. We shoehorned a bit of Ray Harryhausen in the first book because he inspired so many people. But we wanted to, get into it more, into stop motion more. We couldn't do that in the last book. And so now we're not just talking about the one discipline that go in movie making, but all the disciplines that go towards making monsters. And we got our own special Ray Harryhausen chapter, which we're very pleased with.
Yes, we love that chapter.
Good. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a map painter. Really bad.
Yeah.
Which I don't think that, I don't know. Maybe it does exist.
I don't think it doesn't exist anymore.
But,
no,
I mean, where those
sadly.
guys go?
It's very sad. That doesn't exist anymore. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's an art in itself.
Speaking of as kids, like I grew up in the VHS era of every time something came on TV, there was a behind the scenes kind of thing or whatever else. I'd pop in the VHS and I had like back-to-back recordings of all these, right? The people, do you guys have something?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So yeah. And I remember my grandpa gave me a can of latex and I learned on my hand. I did the, what do you call it? Like stretch and flex, getting that
stretch and stipple.
Yeah. And so I did that on my face. I decided I'm going to do my face. It'll look really great. And it did. It looked really good. It was the taking it off that was the learning curve for me. the problem that came along. But what are some of the getting back to the basics? Like what were some of the things that you kind of learned early on or that you played around with that there were kind of things that you continued to use for the rest of your life?
Oh, wow. Well, I go back to the old techniques all the time. I'm currently back to doing what I started doing in terms of how I do makeups. And, you have when you're starting off and when the industry was young, you had just a limited amount of resources. You used makeup. It's called rubber mask grease paint. That's specifically for foam rubber appliances or latex or what have you. Dick Smith invented this really great adhesive paint called Pax paint, Pax, and he invented it for Tootsie because Dustin Hoffman's 5 o'clock shadow came in so heavy halfway through the day, and Dick's like, I have to figure out a way to just cover this. So he would shave him pretty tight, and then he would do his base in Pax paint, and you couldn't see through it. So Pax is a big thing. Anyhow, as things develop and the industry becomes big and profitable for manufacturers of supplies and so forth, they develop all these other materials. You go, instead of using spirit gum for glue, there's all these silicone adhesives and medical adhesives that, and everything's derived from the medical community, by the way. We would find, oh, this works for this or this works for this. I bet you I can adapt it and use it for this, this, or this. So there's now more specific supplies and tools and so forth. But I go back to what I started with. I still do makeups in rubber mask grease paint. I still do them real simple. And, I use an airbrush, and it's the same airbrush that I've used, not the exact same one I got when I was a kid from my mom for Hanukkah, but it was, it's the same Pache H, which I think is a super simple, inexpensive, airbrush that works great for everything. It's a great utility. And it costs like nothing. You can even buy them on eBay for $30. But there's all these other airbrushes that are super high end. They're hundreds and hundreds of dollars. I don't own any of them. And that's just my preference. I mean, I have people, there's people like Steve Wang who are master painters and they have everything they need to do the intricate stuff. But yeah, I kind of like remind myself like, oh, I used to use this and this. I used to use like water-based makeup for this. Or why am I not doing that anymore? What's wrong with it? So, I'm a strong believer in just because it's new doesn't mean it's good. You have to take a look and see what the project is, what you're shooting in, what the elements are, how your actor reacts to things. I mean, there's these alcohol-based makeup paints and they're great, but you may have an actor who can't be near alcohol. So you have to rethink and like, okay, so I'm going to use a water base, even though it's different, and then you just find ways to do it, People, I think, because of the schools, people went to a lot of the schools in, the past 2 decades or whatever,
right.
That's the only way to do it because they teach you how to do it, but they don't really tell you like there's 100 other ways. I always say there's 100 ways to make a hamburger. But at the end of the day, it's a hamburger.
Yeah.
So as long as you get to where you have to go, that's what's important. Like I said, I just go back to the techniques I used to use and they work great. There's a reason why Rick Baker did it this way or Mike Westmore did it this way or, Dick Smith did it this way and it still works. I mean, the thing that's changed is digital photography because now we, certain things don't look so great in 4K, but you adjust and figure it out and so forth. Same with the materials. Like I'm a big foam rubber guy. There's silicones and all this other stuff. Silicones are huge. When silicone prosthetics first kind of developed, That was it. It's like everybody used silicone, but it didn't mean that you should. Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Rubber foam silicone.
And you have to take a look again at like, okay, well, how is this going to play? You don't want to use a silicone makeup if you're shooting in Atlanta in August,
Right.
Because the actor's just going to sweat it off.
Right.
But you can use foam rubber, or if you have a big makeup, you don't want to make that all in silicone,
Right.
and it's just going to be super heavy on you. You want it to be lightweight and foam rubber, and all that good stuff. Yeah, there you go. Like little Spock ears.
Yeah.
But and those were all foam rubber that John Chambers had made for Star Trek for Fred Phillips on the original series.
Yeah. What about wax?
So-
Have you ever used,
No.
no.
As a kid, I would never use it on a show. No, because it's not stable.
No.
It's not stable at
On
all.
those lamps and everything else.
Yeah, no, it's not. You don't want to foil yourself. Like,
No.
oh, that was a good idea, and the nose is
Yeah.
drooping off.
That was the
halfway through.
Nosferatu,
Raiders face.
the makeup, wasn't it? Wasn't it? Didn't they use the wax and?
Oh, you mean
something
the
else?
original one?
Yeah.
Well, that's different though, because that was before the world of prosthetics.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, it was before sculpting, molding. That technology didn't exist. That technology didn't come out until the 30s on Wizard of Oz, because they had characters that had to be in full continuity.
Oh, yeah.
And you couldn't do that with build-up. The
Yeah.
original Frankenstein's monster that Jack Pierce did on Boris Karloff, that was all built up. There wasn't a prosthetic. Like, oh, I'll just sculpt this and run it in foam rubber and paint it every day. That's not how it worked. So those days, the construction days are long gone. I mean, they went away in the late 40s,
You've
early
got a mold
50s.
for everybody, and you're good to go.
Yeah,
Cowling
you
and
have
stuff.
to. Yeah, but that makes sense to me. So it's like there's a process, and it's like, yes, of course, that makeup has to look the same every day. So and take this amount of time to apply. The buildup is a very long, extensive way to do it. And doing it, with prosthetics and so forth, there's a speed you can find. I'm a very fast makeup artist. Some people take hours and hours. I really kind of limit myself because I think of the actor and I try to be production friendly, but also I want to do a really good job. And, but I think I can manage all three aspects when I look at a makeup and design a makeup.
Yeah.
It's very important.
I
Yeah.
know you did the Orville
Yes.
makeup design and stuff. I know you mentioned that for Bortus, you had like 80 molds that you just were getting ready.
Yeah, we had, because
to go.
Bortus played all the time. Yeah, Peter Macon, who plays Bortus.
Yeah.
There was a lot of makeups every day he worked almost. So we had a lot of duplicate molds. The head cowls and the faces, and that Orville's a good example of like understanding Seth MacFarlane's sensibilities. Like, he loves Star Trek. He loves Next Generation. It's like his ultimate, most favorite thing. And so we designed the makeups to have the flavor of what Mike Westmore designed for those shows. And, I made sure any big prosthetic makeup was really three pieces. It was a cowl, which, like the Batman cowl. And then there'd be a chin piece and a full face piece that glued on top. And you had about an hour and a half to do the makeups. So,
That's fast.
yeah, it's very fast. I could do them like in 45. I would just turn on like, okay, next. I'd be on the walkie. Give me next. Who's next? Next alien. And you just get speed, and you know how this goes, and you can do it quickly. But, that's an example of like, it could have been silicone, all those pieces, but I would never want to put Peter through a makeup where there's like 10 pounds of rubber on his head. Instead, I did it all on foam rubber. That show is primarily all foam rubber. And then I started painting my characters with rubber mask grease paint when I started to see there was certain issues with some of the materials people were using, like cracking around the mouth after lunch. And those were very long days of shooting. We would do 90 hours a week. And so makeups were tough. Like, Peter could be in a makeup for 14 hours. That's way beyond, makeups are good for about 10 hours. And then after that, you're like, because they're eating, they're talking, they're drinking, they might be smoking. You never know. And it just, stuff goes to custard after a certain point. So, you take a look and you figure it all out. And Seth loved the look of everything because it felt like Star Trek. And, it was fun.
Speaking
you
of
just have
Seth,
to
his name's on one of your books. You guys,
It is on, he went and he wrote his name on every single book he found. And I was like, Seth, what the hell? No. Yeah. When Marshall and I were doing masters of makeup effects, we talked about, like, we had our wish list of who should do the forwards and the afterwards, and we reached out to Seth. I mean, I just finished working with Seth, and so he was more than happy to do it. So he wrote a really great.
He's a pretty major geek. Yeah.
He's a
There you
huge
go.
geek.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a huge geek, and thank God for that. And he's awesome. He's fantastic. Seth MacFarlane is wonderful to work with, and super creative, and he's excellent guy.
Yeah. Do you have any nightmare stories as far as makeup stuff goes?
Sure, always.
Yeah.
But you know, the
Next
good,
question.
the good. No, the good outweighs the bad. Always. You know, there's like one or two actors I'm not fond of that I would never work with again. But that's out of thousands and thousands. You know, I mean, it's probably my biggest nightmare was I worked on Austin Powers Part 3.
Oh, yeah.
And myself and a really talented makeup artist, Chris Nelson. He's dynamite. And thank God he was there with me because he was my saving grace. I just had a really hard time with Mike Myers and the characters he wanted to play, which he wrote. And he was very agitated, especially with Fat Bastard, and really unkind. And I said, then don't write the characters. He's like, but everybody loves it and wants it, and I have to give them what they want. And I'm like, yeah, at all of the entire crew's expense. So that was really tough. That actually sort of destroyed my confidence for a little bit. And it took me a while to get back on the horse. And it's just because I thought we did a really good job. And Mike just was really, really, really difficult to contend with. Yeah. I mean, I've heard he's changed, so that's great, you know, good on him. And I mean, I think the guy's talented and super funny, but that was really heartbreaking because I was so excited to work on that movie and get to work with Mike Myers, and, you know, but wow.
Did
it
you
was
do
rough.
the-
Heroes.
Well, he wasn't a hero.
Right,
'cause I've met
Right.
my heroes and they're all wonderful.
Yeah,
He's just he's somebody that I wanted to work with. He was on my list because I enjoyed what he did on SNL, and I really thought the first Austin Powers movie was brilliant. And I was like, oh man, this is going to be so fun. It's going to be a great opportunity. And then it ended up being like definitely one of my worst experiences, if not the worst. So, but yeah.
But what about just, I mean...
Gold members from my country, actually.
Oh,
yeah, I know.
With
I know.
smoking the pancakes.
That's right.
What about like just, I mean, because everything is kind of an experiment a lot of times too. I mean, just something that once when you got into it turned out to be something that didn't quite work out the way that it seemed like it was going to, or turned out better even because of just
Happy accident.
yeah.
It's both ways, you know. It's really how you deal with it. Sure, there's tons of times that we'll do something we think is going to work and it doesn't, and you're like, oh shit, we got to rethink this. And sometimes you have to rethink it on set, you know. Sometimes when you do like blood gags, you have to rethink it. Like, I'll give you a reference. So on Kill Bill,
Oh yes,
Yeah,
we're in Beijing again. I'm with Chris Nelson and another guy, Jake McKinnon. It's just the three of us doing everything. And so we do the first thing. We're doing some tests, and I can see Quentin's just not digging it, and I'm like, ugh. So I go to him. He's like, Howard, it's just not happening for me. It's like not big enough. And I was like, God. All right. Well, he's the last person I want to disappoint. So Chris and Jake and I got together and we started talking. I'm like, well, maybe we're really going to, like, it was big. The first blood gag we had to shoot was Sophie's arm getting chopped off. When Uma cuts her arm off. And that's what we were testing. And the blood just was like, it was like a, and I'm like, you know what? Let's really do a full Monty here. Let's do it so that he says that was too big. And so instead of like, I like to use fire extinguishers, with like a good, like 2 gallons of blood charged to like, you know, I'll say 100 PSI, and it's hooked up to tubes, and, you know, you hit it and then blood sprays out. And I'm like, let's change this up. Let's do 2 fire extinguishers charged to 200 PSI, both with 2 gallons of blood. And let's see what happens. And we did it. And that shit shot 30 feet and hit the walls and the ceilings. And all I heard is Quentin laughing behind the camera. And at that point, I knew we had succeeded. And he came up and he's like, that's what I'm talking about. And I'm like, all right. So the rest of the show, we doubled everything. We doubled down on everything. We couldn't make it big enough, you know, in my mind. And, you know, we keep reinventing and reinventing. The thing is, if you're the sort of personality as I am, who cares and really gets gutted when something doesn't work. You find a solution. You don't make excuses. You know, it's like, oh, well, but Quentin, it's because of this, this, and this. I'm like, hey, I'm going to figure this out. And just give me some time. I'll remedy it. I will remedy this. You know, and with brainstorming, you do. And, but it happens to everybody. You know, Rick Baker, I once said, like, you never fail. And he's like, I fail all the time. You just never see it. So he's like, I'm not going to show you my failures, but there's tons of them. I'm like, okay, that makes me feel a little bit better. So, but yeah, no, there's always times when you're doing something that's just doesn't look right, you know, or there's something wrong with it. And you're like, I got to go back and revisit this and figure out. And you pull your team in, and you're like, guys, take a look at this. Let's talk about what works and doesn't work. Because I don't have the answers, all the answers. I don't want to be the singular voice. I mean, I will be the singular voice at the end. Ultimately, it's going to be my decision. But getting there, I need other people's points of view. They may see things differently than I see. And it might be a better idea. You know, I'm open to that.
Without naming any names of like movies or shows and stuff that you've worked on, is there anything that you would say that you sadly had to let be as something that wasn't living up to your expectations?
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Like,
yeah,
there's still stuff that you can't watch without saying, I should have done that better. Oh
yeah, absolutely. There's stuff, I look at photos of stuff we did and I'm like, how did that get by? That's terrible. You know, there's sometimes I see some really dodgy shit that I did, or I'm like, how did I think that was good?
Why is my name on this?
Yeah, well, it's more me. It's not so much them. It's me. Like, I could have done a better job. It just doesn't look right. Or I recognize, like, I paint things a very specific way, but it's always the same for some reason. I can't seem to break my way I paint. And I'll see things.
Because you use the same paintbrush all the time.
Maybe that's what it is. And I look at it and I'm like, God, it's such a me paint job. I wish I had mixed it up a little bit, you know, tried this or try that. It's mostly a creative thing for me. Not always being super happy with it, you know, and something I might think is like, this is so cool. And then I look at it again years later. I'm like, God, that's so crap. It's so bad. I'm embarrassed by it. Like, we're going to destroy all the photos now so nobody ever sees this. But yeah, I mean, there's certainly there's shows you work on that you have a great time doing, and then the movie or the TV series doesn't turn out as well. You know, it's more fun to work on it. Then there's times where you have a miserable time. You're like, I hate working on this movie. This sucks. And it comes out and you're like, hey, that turned out really, really good. I'm really surprised. Scream was one of those movies where I hated working on it. I hated it more than anything. I despised every day I had to go to set.
Why is that?
And then when I saw the movie, why is that? Because I hated the script. I thought it was a hack job. And I thought it was derivative. It was a rip off of everything. You know, we had just come off of Vampire in Brooklyn with Eddie Murphy that Wes Craven directed. And that didn't do well at all. And so we were all like, eesh, what are we going to do, Wes? And Wes is like, well, I think even Wes was like, I think this is the last nail in my coffin. This movie is just, I don't know what it's going to be. And then the movie came out. It was great. And it did great. And it's still spawning sequels. But Wes was able to take that story and that script and really do something with it. And it had to do with the people he cast were really good. His post-production I thought was really good. I thought the music in the film really drove the momentum of the film. It became a really enjoyable movie to watch. And I was shocked because I was like, is this going to be the worst film ever? And I was really thinking Miramax was dumping it because it was bad because they released it like on Christmas. I think it was December 21st. And I'm like, who releases a horror movie on December 21st? And then it just kept climbing all the way up to like $300 million. It never fell off the box office as number one during Christmas and into the new year. And it was pretty incredible. They tried that again and that was a fail, of course. Like, really, they released The Faculty, that same slot. And it's like, that's not really a film, it just didn't work in that time slot. Should have been a summer movie. But anyhow, you just never know, man. And it's like, but all through these years, I've learned to separate myself and not be disappointed. And I realized I did what I delivered. I did my job. And now it's up to the filmmaker to deliver. Again, I use a lot of food analogies. So to me, it's like we bring all the ingredients and the chef can make a souffle that rises or collapses. And sometimes it does rise and sometimes it collapses. So, and you get disappointed. You're like, oh, wow. You sit there and go, I had so much fun making this movie, but it's way more fun making it than it was watching it.
Right.
That happens often. So.
I know that there are certain situations though where even though the plots might not be good or the way that the director has like shot certain scenes, I know that there are like multiple people that still enjoy like the visual effects or the makeup of like certain characters, monsters, etc. So I mean, it's always worth putting the effort in. Like it's never like if people appreciate it, like they will appreciate it.
You never half-ass it. It's not like, this is going to be shit. We don't really. It doesn't matter. Every show that K&B gets, that's the most important show. And any client we have, they're the most important client. And that's how Greg Nicotero and I have dealt with it for 38 years. And that's how K&B has been around for 38 years, because we give such personal attention. We don't just like, it's fine, or screw those guys, or they didn't pay enough money. That's the other thing too. We don't discriminate against budgets. So we'll do a Michael Bay $200 million movie, and then I'll do another movie for, Cabin Fever for 20,000, 20 million, I wish. Yeah. 20,000, because right. Eli had no money.
Yeah.
So we did it because we liked the script, we liked Eli, and we thought it'd be fun, and that worked out really well. That film turned out great.
You're making a movie as well, aren't you?
not the not
that kind of
makeup effects in it. I wish it did. But yeah. Well, you've worked with, like, speaking of, list of movies. I was going through your IMDb last night, and it's like, if you just looked up like movies from a certain age forward, is almost every single movie is in here. And you see a lot that makes sense why you're involved with them, and then you get to movies like Father Stew and stuff like that. Like what did you do in that movie?
For Father Stew?
Yeah,
there's a sequence where Mark Wahlberg, he gets this disease, and he puts on a lot of weight because he becomes a paraplegic, and he gets heavy. So I had worked with Mark for years and years, and Mark always knew how to utilize me. And so he called me and he's like, Howard, I'm doing this movie, Father Stew. It's a true story. I said, well, send me photos of the real guy. And I looked at it. I'm like, okay, well, this is a heavy set makeup. And I said, would you be willing to shave your head? Because I think that needs it. I said, I don't want to bald cap you. I think that you're going to be miserable. That's going to cut like an hour off the makeup, because Mark hates sitting in the makeup chair. And he shaved his head, and we designed a really nice makeup and all that stuff. And that's what I did for Father Stew. So I don't, wow. K&B has been very diverse through the decades. And it's not that we just do horror. We started off just doing horror because that's made sense. But, we worked on Dances with Wolves, and we built all these mechanical buffalo, something we had no idea how to do, but we did it. We worked on City Slickers, again, mechanical puppets and animals. Little Norman was a puppet in the birth scene and some other sequences. It varies. It's whatever comes in that interests us, and again, K&B, the studio, which is a 20,000 square foot facility in Chatsworth, is filled with people that do all different things. We do miniatures, we do specialty props, we do specialty costumes, like you said, creatures, whatever it takes, it's pretty cool. And that's why I think we've been also around for a long time, because we're just not focusing on one thing. We didn't pigeonhole ourselves, Greg and I. And, we just like doing a lot of different things. So, but yeah, there's a lot of, there's a movie coming out that I just did with Mark called By Any Means. And I think it'll probably be out next year, but it's another true story. We shot it really fast, and Mark wanted a character makeup. And so I designed and went to Atlanta and applied this makeup on Mark for 15 days. And it's a subtle makeup, but I was so excited, one, to be back working with Mark, because I thoroughly enjoy working with him. He's a good partner to have. And it was just a fun makeup, and it was something different. He was trying something different, and I really appreciated that. And again, they had no money, but I'm like, I'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. So, and we did, and it worked out great, and he was really happy. And I think it's going to be a really, really good movie. Pretty intense. So, but that, that's another thing. I work on a lot of shows. The show I'm working on now virtually has no prosthetics. I'm department heading, which means that I oversee all makeup and prosthetics and so forth. And I love doing it. That's where the rest of my career is going to be, is just department heading. And, it's a faith-based series for Amazon. And, the monster guy's on set dealing with, biblical figures from 1700 BC. So, go figure. But it's something that interests me. It's a period of time I never did. And, I'm like, like I did American Primeval. That was on the cusp of the Westerns, and that was incredible and amazing to do. And, it's just, you kind of mix it up, I'm not always going to do horror or monsters or makeup effects. There'll be times it's, I just do a movie, which is perfectly fine.
If you only had one tool, what would it be? The tool, your favorite tool that you have. I'm going to have the same question for Marshall here in a little bit, but, what
if I had
would be
one
your tool? Yeah.
It would be Marshall. No.
The wordsmith.
Yes. He is a wordsmith, matter of fact. Every time I write something, I send it to him, and then it comes back like polished, like nobody's business. Like, it's incredible. Like, geez, who wrote this? Abraham Lincoln. This is great. Gosh, one tool. That's a hard one. I don't know, man. Well, I can do anything. Well, I don't know. Maybe I don't know, man. That's hard to say. I don't know if I could get away with one tool.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe my airbrush, although I'm using it less and less these days. I love that airbrush.
Yeah. You must have really cleaned that well. I don't think I've had an airbrush last more than a year from me.
No, I don't clean it. And that's why it works so well.
Yeah.
That's why, because it's not, I clean it once in a blue moon when it
clogs,
clogs, but I like the fact every time I drop it on the ground, it works better. And that's how that airbrush has survived. It's like, oh my God, the splatter now, I can really splatter into it.
Right.
The needle's bent and I'm like, this is great. Happy accident. But yeah, no, I don't know. Maybe my airbrush. I love the airbrush. Yeah, that would be my big tool, perhaps.
How about what's your recommendation for people that are wanting to do now in this era that want to go into, makeup design and special effects, things like that?
Time machine.
Yeah. Somehow, yeah. Marshall's 100% correct. Go back in time.
Yeah.
I can't tell you the truth, and I know this sounds crappy. I can't consciously encourage anybody to go into this because I don't know how viable it is. We have, between the pandemic and the strikes and the studios streaming everything in the universe and burning everybody out, the industry's in it's in very bad health. And it has been for 5 years. And there are a lot of people out of work that have been out of work I don't even know how they're surviving. So to get into this, it's just not going to be something you're going to make money at, or make a living at, because there's already tons of people that are professionals that can't get work currently until the studios pull their heads out of their whatevers and figure out how to get back to work. But it's hard, man. You can do it. That's great. Yeah. But I just, how
about for those indie people and the cosplayers out there?
Well, that's a different universe.
They want to do,
yeah.
Like,
if you want to be like, oh, I want to be a makeup effects artist for film, that is an extinct art. I'm sorry. It's sadly we're relics. And that is the truth. And I've never felt that way up until recent. I think, if you want to make this stuff and do Halloween haunts and cosplay, yeah, man, rock and roll, then just do it. Get into it. People are so afraid to take a chance, and they're, because I get hundreds of letters a year from people and asking that. It's like, well, how should I start? I'm like, just do it. There's no secret word.
Oh yeah.
There you go. See, look at that. Brilliant.
Not too shabby.
You're ready for the world. but there's no secret word to get you in, to make it. It's just hard work and being good. And you have to have perspective on yourself. Like, you got to look in the mirror and go, am I really good at this? And take a look at who is in the industry and the types of people and the quality and the expertise. And if you think you can compete with them, great. But don't say, oh, I feel like I can sculpt in one of the main rooms, and you're going to be sitting next to Norman Cabrera and Dave Grasso and John Wrightson. They're going to run. You can't compete with their toenail on the floor, and that's the reality. Like, you really have to have perspective, and a lot of people do not. I get a tremendous amount of stuff sent to me, and I'm like, holy mackerel. Like, I applaud the effort and the interest, but the reality is really, really rough.
Yeah.
It's not
It's
up
really
to
rough.
standards.
The bar's high.
For what?
Oh, I mean, it's so far off. There's no bar to be seen.
Yeah.
So, the bar's so underground. It's like in China. So I don't know.
And the book that you guys would say, we're kind of doing this again. We're doing this in a couple of pieces. For the next episode, we're talking a lot about just general geek stuff and a lot of
let Marshall have his say as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the realm of
too.
that's the realm of Marshall. Marshall is the king. I mean, I know a lot of collectors. Like Greg Nicotero is a massive collector, but Marshall is the grand poobah of collecting. So there you go. Even a book.
So, but the book that you guys would say to the people should go out there tomorrow or today or right now while you're on your phone and watching this, go ahead and order. Which are just the Vinz. You have the other book too, right?
Yeah,
yeah, there you go. Hold that one up. There we go. So now how long ago did this come out?
This came out like in
2022.
2022.
Yeah, September 2022.
Okay. And people can get it just about anywhere, right? Like,
I can get it. So
yeah.
Vinz
got it in the Netherlands, and they don't even
we don't even have boats.
They don't even read there.
No.
Lots of pretty pictures.
Well, there are lots of pictures.
Yes.
If you've enjoyed this podcast and want more, stay tuned for that. But also check out our channel. Join the community on YouTube that goes by the same name, Your Geek Fix. Be sure to check out Vinz on Twitter at MassiveDMG_ and on his YouTube channel, MassiveDMG. Check out James at Mr. Malto4 on Instagram and the Replica Prop Forum. To learn more about Howard, Marshall, and their books, be sure to check out the description below. In the meantime, this has been your Geek Fix.